I was idling at a stoplight on a sharp incline heading into downtown Omaha when a damn semi, hauling a massive 30-ton trailer, smashed into me. Its brakes had failed. The impact crushed my car's back seat into the front, shoving me clean through the intersection. Paramedics had to pry me out, sliding a board under my back and gripping my jaw to keep me steady. They strapped me to a stretcher, rushed me to the hospital for x-rays and an MRI, and then called in a specialist. That's when I knew it was serious. A nurse mentioned my wife was on her way. She showed up after signing some paperwork, her face ghostly white and eyes wide with fear. I looked at her and said, "No matter what happens, I'll get through this. I'll be walking again." The doctor came in and laid it out plain. My neck was messed up badly, vertebrae C3, C4, and C5 were shattered at a weird angle. They fitted me with a halo brace but didn't sugarcoat it. I might never walk again, likely paralyzed from the neck down. Once I was stable, they transferred me to a nursing home near our place in Lincoln's West Haymarket. It gutted both of us. We'd been married 4 years. My wife, Emily, bought the doctor's prognosis. I couldn't. I refused to believe I was done for, or I'd lose my mind. Doctors, therapists, Emily, everyone pushed me to accept my new reality. Hell no. I was playing the long game. They called it denial, I called it giving up too quick. The harder they pressed, the harder I resisted. They'd drone on about adapting to my new life, but I tuned them out. 2 things kept me sane, talk radio and my roommate, Walter Jones. Cancer had him down, but he was a storyteller, sharp as ever. The nurses couldn't stand him or my radio, but I lived for both. Every day, they'd test my feet, nothing at first. Then, one day, I felt a tingle. My toes twitched, muscles flickered. I kept it to myself, only told Walter. We both knew the staff would brush it off if I spoke up too soon. At first, Emily visited every evening after work, staying till 9 p.m., but her visits dwindled. I could see it in her eyes, she was checking out. I finally told her, "You don't have to keep showing up out of guilt." She looked stung but didn't argue. I think she was waiting for the spotlight to fade before bolting, too scared to admit she couldn't handle being tied to a guy like me now. My childhood buddy, Mason, though, he was there all the time, cracking jokes, keeping my spirits up. He played guitar in a local band but always made time for me. After a while, I noticed him acting off, like he was hiding something. Then it hit me, he was acting just like Emily. My gut screamed something was going on between them. Friends and family came over, but they talked in circles, as if there was a whole world they were shielding me from. I discussed it with Walter, running through all the possibilities. Something was wrong. One day, after Emily had been gone for over a month, she showed up out of the blue and said, "I'm going to visit my sister Abigail for 2 weeks." Abigail lived a couple of hours away in Fremont and was married. I just nodded and said, "Okay." There was no point in asking, she was already out of her emotional state. The doctors kept telling me the same thing, "Wait. We'll see." They never gave me any straight answers, just stalled. I figured they were waiting for me to give in, too. I didn't think much of it until Abigail dropped by while Emily was supposedly visiting. She said she was visiting their mother, oblivious to everything else. If she'd known what was going on, she wouldn't have come. You see, we used to be really close, me, Emily, and Mason. Then Mason's dad would come over and casually mention that Mason was gone, too. That's when it hit me, they were together, my wife and my best friend, hiding it, like I was too broken to notice. Emily was beautiful, blonde, petite, with a voice that could cover a room. Mason always wanted her to sing in his band, but I put the brakes on it. I had plans, to finish college, to build a life. And then the crash happened, and suddenly he was there. I'm not a big guy, 5 feet 10 inches, 150 pounds, lean but tough. I used to haul heavy crates up 14 flights without breaking a sweat. People always underestimated me. When I heard they jetted off to Brazil like it was some damn romantic getaway, I started scheming. I knew I had to play it smart and bide my time. A week after Emily got back, Mason showed up, tanned as hell. He sat on the floor so I could see him, handed me a box of Brazilian cigars and matches, and said, "You can light these up once you're back on your feet." I didn't ask who he went with, I knew. He didn't mention Emily either, because he'd been with her. Before he left, I asked him to loosen the strap on my side so I could scratch an itch. He crawled under, loosened it, and didn't tell the nurses. I prayed they wouldn't notice when they tilted my bed. After he left, Walter said, "Nice of him to bring cigars." "Yeah," I replied. "We went way back, grew up together." "Not for long," Walter said. "Once you're walking, he's toast." I nodded. Emily had been with him for at least 6 months. How'd I know? They both went to Brazil at the same time, that was the giveaway. That night, after the nurses changed shifts, they tilted my bed up. I started slow. My right arm gave out but came back. I unhooked the right strap, then the left. Inch by inch, I sat up. My arms trembled but held steady. Walter stayed quiet, raising a fist like he was cheering me on. He wheeled over, lowered my bed rail. I swung my legs off the bed. We opened a drawer, and I grabbed a pair of jeans and a flannel shirt. Dressing took everything I had, still in sandals. All I could think about was lighting one of those cigars. I slipped 2 cigars and some matches into my shirt pocket and asked Walter if I could borrow his walker. He just grinned and rolled it over. "Elevators to the right, nurses' station to the left," he said. "I'll keep em busy." I smirked. "Leave me a few matches and a cigar, all right?" "Take 3 or 4, I said, leaving 8 matches on his dresser and stuffing my wallet in my back pocket. I waited 5 minutes, then shuffled to the elevator, legs stiff, balance shaky, but the walker kept me upright. A few minutes later, I was outside, barefoot, leaning on the walker, puffing on a Brazilian cigar, my first in a year. It tasted like freedom. Back in the room, the nurses lost it, unable to process how a guy stuck in bed pulled it off. I didn't care. The night air was crisp, the cigar was rich, and I was standing. That's all that mattered. I knew I'd walk again. The cigar smoke curled around me, proving I was back in control. Red and blue lights flashed as a police cruiser pulled up. An officer stepped out, scratching his head while I leaned against the brick wall outside the nursing home in Omaha's Dundee neighborhood, flannel shirt unbuttoned, puffing on my Brazilian cigar. "Man, you freaked out the staff," he said. "Guess you're not as bad off as they thought. Still, I gotta bring you back inside." I shrugged and said, "Fine, but let me finish these cigars first." He watched me stand steady, no wobble, and eased up. Then the local specialist, Dr. Carlton, showed up, followed by my folks. All 3 tried to herd me back into the nursing home. I cut them off. "No way. I've heard enough of their crap for too long." Someone even though Emily could talk me into it. That got a chuckle out of me. Then I turned to the cop. "Hey, radio dispatch. Ask Frank Dawson where his son Mason's playing tonight." He blinked, confused. "Why's that?" I leaned in. "Because Mason's been sneaking around with my wife for months. If he's got a gig, she's probably there with him." The color drained from their faces. They finally got it, Emily wasn't coming to save the day. She wasn't the answer, and I wasn't some broken guy anymore. I faced Dr. Carlton. "Doc, call my dad. Tell him I'm ready to go home." He sighed, muttering, "Damn it, Jacob, all right. I'll make the call. Maybe your old man can talk some sense into that hard head of yours." I grabbed the walker and started shuffling toward the sidewalk. My dad's place was only 6 blocks away in Benson. The cop moved to stop me, but Dr. Carlton stepped in. "Jacob, hold up. We get it, you're tough as nails. But don't overdo it. We're still wrapping our heads around the fact you're standing at all." He dialed my dad, urging him to hurry, saying it was urgent. "Frank, don't spill a word," Dr. Carlton warned. "He's stubborn as hell and just clever enough to push through out of pure spite. We should be figuring out how he even got up." Turns out, Mason wasn't playing that night. Right before my dad arrived, Emily pulled up in our spare car. She saw me standing there, and her jaw dropped, shock written all over her. My dad, though, had this proud glint in his eye, like he was seeing something he never expected to witness again. I looked at him and said, quoting my granddad, "Tough days don't stick around forever. Might need a hand getting into the truck, but keep it quiet." Dad grinned, still processing the sight of me upright, cigar in hand. He stepped closer and said, "No rush, son. I'll call your mom, get the downstairs room set up. She'll help with whatever you need. You sure about leaving?" I gave him a look. He knew my mind was made up. He turned to the others. "That's his call. He's not asking, he's going. If he stumbles, he'll get back up. That's just Jacob. Emily approached, eyes wide, not saying a word. I stared at her like she was a stranger. The cop stepped in. "Ma'am," he said, "your husband knows about you and Mason Dawson. He's the one who told us to check with Mason's dad. You should probably leave." Emily looked at me. I didn't flinch. "Dad, look who decided to show up. So, tell me, besides strumming his guitar, what's Mason been up to?" Dad shook his head. "She's been living in your house, driving your car, even used your name for loans until I sent the lawyers after her." I started moving toward the truck, Walker scraping along. Before climbing in, I turned to Emily. "Tell Mason what you saw here, and thank him for what's coming when I'm back to full strength." Her face went white. She knew I meant business. Mason had crossed a line, and I'd be settling that score. "Tell him," I added. "His band days are done. He used his hands to steal from me. I'll use mine to take it back." The cop should have hauled her off right then. Dad helped me into the truck, and I rolled down the window. "Dr. Carlton," I said, "give the walker back to Walter Jones. Tell him I'll swing by soon." He nodded. At the house, Dad parked and steadied me as I climbed out, ready to catch me if I faltered. Mom opened the door, saw me, and froze, hand over her mouth, tears welling up. They'd built a ramp just in case. I gripped the rail, legs burning, and made it inside. I'd pushed too hard, and I knew it, but I was home. That's what counted. I sank into a kitchen chair, exhausted. Someone knocked. Dad opened the door. It was Dr. Carlton. He looked me over, gave me a good scolding, but couldn't hide his smile. He handed Dad the truck keys. "There's a pair of canes in the back. Grab 'em. I'll take off the halo's chin rest, but the rest stays until we get new x-rays." I took the canes and stood, wobbly but better than that clunky walker. I asked Dad for a razor. He passed it over, and I cleaned up in the downstairs bathroom. When I stepped out, I looked like myself again, just needed a trim. Mom asked, "Do you want anything?" "Yeah," I said, "one of your cigarettes, a couple of grilled cheese sandwiches, and a cold beer." She started making 4. I still needed x-rays and had to grab my stuff from the nursing home. After that, I'd be off to rehab for a few weeks. Mom looked at me. "I'm so proud of you, Jacob." Dr. Carlton chimed in. "You ignored us, and it paid off. But keep up with the specialist. Don't mess with the insurance payout." Dad walked him out while I ate. Real food hits like nothing else. Mom fought back tears. When Dad came back, he poured us some top-shelf whiskey. We sat and talked. I told them, back in the hospital, I heard Mason got Emily singing with his band. She loved it. They started getting more gigs. That's when she stopped showing up. Then, 6 months after the crash, he moved into my house. They'd built that ramp to look good, like they were planning to take care of me. Truth was, they were just building their own life. I looked at Mom and Dad. "I need my laptop, my books, and all my stuff back." I told my folks, "I'm calling the university to sort out getting back to classes. Gotta check the bank, too, make sure my name's still on the accounts." Mom put her hand up. "Enough planning for now, Jacob. Tell us what happened today." I spilled the story about the cigars and everything that went down after. She laughed, shaking her head. "You're just like your granddad. He'd say, 'Hand that guy a medal.'" She added, "Your dad's taking tomorrow off to grab your stuff from the house." But first, she was off to Target to pick up some clothes for me. Dad walked her out, then poured us another round of whiskey. "That cop overheard what you said to Emily," he said. "He told me they're keeping an eye on you. Emily and Mason are sweating bullets now. Fear's gonna eat them alive. They'll turn on each other soon. And just when they think they're in the clear, bam, divorce papers." I smirked. "I'll make it ugly. The car's still in my name. I'll have it towed right when they're halfway across the state. Let him hitchhike." Dad chuckled. "So, you're playing it long-term. What about Mason's hands?" I leaned back. "He'll ruin himself." With a little nudge. "He's just a big kid chasing the next pretty thing, especially if it's got a voice like Emily's. I've got buddies whose wives can stir up some real trouble for him." Dad raised an eyebrow. "You sure about this?" I met his gaze. "I've come this far, haven't I? If plans change, I'll pivot." But it's not a question of if, it's when. The next morning, getting out of bed was brutal. I slid to the floor, crawled a bit, then hauled myself up. Slow, but I was moving. Each step brought a little more strength back. By 10 a.m., I was at the hospital in Omaha's Exarban village for x-rays. Dad was out collecting my stuff while I was there. Good thing Mom grabbed me some slip-on shoes. I couldn't bend to tie laces yet. I made it to the kitchen table with my cane, and we got to the x-ray appointment right on time. After the scans, Dr. Carlton called the specialist. Once they reviewed the images, they removed the halo brace. I could move freer instantly. Mom met me at Dr. Carlton's office, where he said rehab would start in 2 weeks. We swung by the bank to check my account. It was drained. I was supposed to get $2,000 a month from insurance, gone. I called my lawyer, gave her the routing number, and found out the money had been funneled to Mason's account. Every cent. They dug up a forged document with my signature, dated from when I was stuck in the hospital. Open and shut case. By the time we left, I had a new account, a new debit card, and my money back. First thing I did was pull out $200 and get a proper haircut. The bank tipped off the cops to start a fraud investigation. I still got tired quickly, but my strength was creeping back. Mom drove me home. Dad had grabbed all my stuff, clothes, books, laptop, TV, and set up the TV in the family room and the laptop in my bedroom. I called the university, laid out my situation, and they let me restart the semester, no extra fees. Later, I was chilling on the back porch when the rest of my family rolled in, my 2 older sisters and my younger brother. They had to see me standing to believe it. They apologized for not visiting more, and I let it slide, but things felt off. At least I knew where everyone stood now. We talked for an hour until Mom stepped in, saying I needed to rest. One day, I asked her to drive me to the nursing home to visit Walter Jones. I told her I'd call when I was done. When I walked in, Walter was in his wheelchair. "Old-timer," I said, "how about a smoke?" A nurse walked in as I was wheeling him out, my canes tied together and slung over my shoulder. "Where are you taking Mr. Jones?" she asked. "Outside for some air, a cigar, and a chat," I replied. "Don't worry, I'll bring him back." She smiled. "He said you'd come back." We didn't believe him. I grinned. The stronger I get, the more I'll be here. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be on my feet. We sat outside, smoked 2 cigars, and talked. When he got tired, I wheeled him back in. We chatted for an hour until he dozed off. It took a week to feel halfway normal. Each day, I relied less on the cane. I hired a lawyer, a fierce woman who was livid about what Emily and Mason pulled. She was out for blood and wasn't letting them off easily. Friday hit hard. That morning, Emily got served divorce papers. A cop showed up at my door soon after, a detective, all business. I laid out everything I knew about Mason Dawson. That slick idiot. Turns out, Dad had handed over some legal documents we had on him, real dirt. Mason was looking at serious charges, identity theft, bank fraud, maybe even extortion. They said 5 to 7 years if it stuck. That night, I stopped by to check on Walter. He seemed better, or so I thought. We talked for a bit, but then he slipped away, right there while I sat beside him. Cancer finally took him, but damn, that man held on like a fighter. I swear he stuck around just to see me back on my feet. First day of rehab, I showed up early, walked in, and guess who my physical therapist was? Mason's younger sister, Bridget. Small world, right? If she wasn't tied to that snake, I might have flirted. I almost bailed, but we both kept quiet about Mason. Bridget didn't mess around, tough, straight up, no fluff. That first session, we sized each other up like opponents in a ring. She pushed me hard, tested my range, strength, balance. Most of the day was stretching, but even she admitted I was doing better than expected. Hell, I shocked myself. 3 weeks in, I was moving smoother than I had in months. Then she challenged me to step it up. "Why?" I asked, half grinning. She just pointed to the equipment, so I went for it. By the end, I was beat. She looked at me. "So, what's the verdict?" I shot back, "I'm ready to take on gravity." I added, "Strength's never been my issue. Sitting still too long was." She folded her arms. "You sure you can back that up without crashing?" I smirked, stepped closer, gently grabbed her by the waist, and lifted her off the floor. She laughed, leaned in, and planted a kiss on me. I kissed her back. Bridget had her mom's looks. Bridget had this timeless look, graceful curves, striking green eyes, and a smile that could soften iron. Her presence was quiet but powerful, like a steady flame. "All right, Jacob Riley Turner," she said, still chuckling, "you've made your point. Put me down." I eased her back to the ground, grinning. "Funny how everyone wrote me off after the crash," I said. She nodded, her expression softening. "My dad always said not to bet against you. He saw something in you most folks missed. Too bad my brother didn't." Her smile dimmed. "Now that we know the whole story, it's like our family's finally seeing clearly. Mason fooled everyone. And we had to ask ourselves, if he'd stab his best friend in the back, what's he capable of doing to us?" I leaned back. "Exactly. He and Emily know trouble's coming. They just don't know when it'll hit. She got slammed with divorce papers last week, infidelity cited. And him? Once the cops wrap up what I uncovered after the hospital, he's staring down 7 to 10 years. Bridget sat next to me. "You know, I used to watch you and Mason play basketball as kids. You were always the guy dishing assists, never hogging the spotlight. I thought that was rare. Honestly, I've measured every guy against you since." She grinned. "So, when's our first date?" I laughed. "If I was back to full strength, I'd say tonight. But you didn't even push me that hard, and I'm wiped." Her eyes lit up, like she saw something new in me. "How do you stay so upbeat through all this?" I took a deep breath. I just believed in myself. That's it. If I didn't, nobody else would. The people I cared about, they stopped believing. That's why it all fell apart. She squeezed my hand and led me to a nearby bench. "My mom's great-grandpa was like that," she said. "Proud man, kept his distance after a family betrayal. Raised his kids with his wife, but he never fully let them back in. That closeness was gone for good." I nodded. "Yeah, sometimes we push people away to shield ourselves, but really, we're just hiding. He probably thought their excuses were about dodging the truth, but in the end, he couldn't trust them anymore." She went quiet, then asked, "What else did Mason do? Anything we don't know?" I sighed. "He forged my signature, swiped a money order meant for my medical bills, straight from the insurance company, and funneled it to a bank account in his name." Bridget's face went pale, and tears welled up. I pulled her close, wrapped my arms around her, and let her cry. "Listen," I said softly, "the bank made it right once we proved it all. I couldn't sign a damn thing, I was stuck in bed. When the detective came by, my dad handed over a stack of papers showing Mason faked power of attorney, including the form he sent to the bank. Forged, dated long after I was laid up. We sat and talked a while longer until my ride showed up. I told her I'd be gone Wednesday for a funeral. That night at dinner, over pot roast and cornbread, Mom noticed I was different, lighter somehow. I spilled the whole story about Bridget. After that, I dove into my college classes at the University of Nebraska Omaha, ready to carve out a new path. Tuesday, during a break, I grabbed a soda from the vending machine and lit a cigarette by the campus courtyard. Bridget showed up with 2 brown bags, lunch she'd packed for me. As we ate, I told her about Walter Jones, how we'd propped each other up through the worst of it. She listened, hanging on every word. The funeral hit like a freight train. Just me and Mom showed up, nobody else. A Salvation Army chaplain gave a brief, dignified service. Walter wanted to be cremated, and it was done. Afterward, I asked the director what would happen to the ashes. He said they were already with Walter's lawyer, everything handled per his will. As we loaded the car with flowers from the service, a man approached. He was Walter's lawyer, and asked if we could follow him to his office. Turns out Walter had lost his family years ago, never remarried, and at some point, he'd rewritten his will, leaving everything to me. All he asked, the lawyer said, was that I take his ashes to the highest ridge in Sarpy County and scatter them there. He laid out what I was inheriting, and Mom and I were floored. It wasn't just keepsakes, there was serious value. On the drive home, I told Mom we weren't breathing a word until my divorce was final. We both knew this would change everything. Back at rehab, Bridget worked with me like a taskmaster for the next 2 weeks. She jotted down every detail, what I could do, what I couldn't. I asked, "What's with all the notes?" She said, "Your injury might have lasting effects, and people need to see how far you've climbed." We weren't officially dating yet, but it was obvious to everyone. The ribbing never stopped, especially about how I was the only guy getting lunch delivered daily. On the last day of rehab, Bridget drove me to Walter's lawyer's office. When he called me in, I asked her to join. I looked at the attorney and said, "Are you good with staying on as my lawyer?" He nodded. I told him I needed a team, legal, financial, the whole deal. He handed me an urn with Walter's ashes. "You know where you're taking him?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, "there's a bluff overlooking the Platte River, right above where his old house used to be. I'll scatter him there, even if I gotta buy a new pickup to make the climb." He smiled and slid a set of keys across the desk. "It's a beautiful spot. The property spanned 125 acres, complete with creeks and rolling hills, the whole package. You're gonna need that 4x4 to get around," the lawyer said. "One more thing, you should pull the land out of the Australian trust it's tied up in. Assemble a board, people you can count on, to manage it. It's been maintained, but it hasn't grown." Then he slid an envelope across his desk. I tore it open, a check for over $3 million, the total from Walter's accounts and bonds. "Taxes are cleared," he said. "It's all in your name now." We left his office, and Bridget drove me to a bank in Omaha's Old Market that stayed open late. After depositing the check, I turned to her and said, "How's Olive Garden sound for dinner?" Over pasta and breadsticks, we talked about the land, the house, and what I might do with it. I told her I wouldn't know for sure until I saw it with my own eyes. "You free tomorrow after 10 o'clock? I asked. "Want to tag along?" She grinned. "Yeah, I'm in." "Why so late?" I smirked. "Gotta buy a Jeep first and get it insured. You've let me borrow your car enough, it's time I got my own." So, we hit a dealership in Council Bluffs. I asked for a cash deal on a black Jeep Wrangler. The salesman nearly choked when I pulled out my debit card. As we drove off, Bridget shot me a sideways glance. "You just blew all your cash on that?" I laughed. "Nah, just a chunk." "Why'd you ask for a full inspection?" "It's brand new." I shrugged. Anything built with parts from a dozen countries is a roll of the dice. My dad ran a hardware store, always had everything checked before signing off. Saved his hide more than once. She shook her head, laughing. When we got to my place, she walked me to the door, leaned in, and kissed me goodnight. The second I climbed into the passenger seat of Mom's car, she hit me with the news. My other car had been impounded an hour ago in Kansas City, right when Emily and Mason were setting up for their little card night. The court ordered it, thanks to my lawyer's paperwork. Then Mom switched gears and asked about Bridget. I didn't hold back, I told her how I felt, straight up. That's probably why I went to bed with a genuine grin for the first time in forever. The next morning, Dad drove me to pick up the Jeep at 9 a.m. It passed inspection without a hitch. First stop was the insurance office, plates and coverage sorted in no time. By 10:10, I rolled into Frank Dawson's driveway in Bellevue. I knocked, expecting Bridget, but Frank opened the door. "Come in, Jacob," he said warmly. "Bridget's still getting ready. And listen, I respect that you didn't hold Mason's mess against us. He dug his own hole, let him deal with it." I nodded calmly. "He hasn't seen the worst of it yet." Frank gave a knowing half-smile. "Bridget figured you'd say that. For what it's worth, we're not lifting a finger to bail him out. Your family, Jacob, always have been." That meant more than he probably knew. Bridget's mom was already in the kitchen, whipping up muffins and brewing coffee like it was second nature. Turning her down would have been rude, so I sat, and we spent the next hour chatting, Bridget right beside me. As I came out of the hallway bathroom, her younger sister, Tara, pulled me aside, her voice low and a grin on her face. "Mom and Dad bet you and Bridget will be hitched within a year," she whispered. "And between us, she's been crazy about you for ages, even if she plays it cool." That hit me like a ton of bricks. I started wondering, was I really falling for Bridget, or was this some messed up way of getting back at Mason? Before I could respond, Tara added, "Don't overthink it, Jacob. You're not the type to hurt the wrong person." "Mason? Yeah, we're done with him. But Bridget's not him." I nodded slowly. "Thanks for that. I've been questioning everything lately." She smiled. Not all of us are. You know she moved back home when she found out she'd be your therapist? She was nervous about how you'd treat us. Then she spent all night after your first session telling me about that kiss, the first one. If you're not serious about her, let her go now. Don't pull her into something that'll break you both. I looked at her and said quietly, she'll know where I stand by tonight. We hit the road soon after, heading to the property I'd inherited. The drive was long, stretching through the Nebraska countryside. When we reached the gate, I stepped out and swung it open myself. We cruised up a winding driveway, trees and wild brush closing in around us. Nature had been running the show for years, but then we saw it, and we both froze. The house was stunning, a sprawling log home with a matching outbuilding that looked just as grand. Power and water were already hooked up, maintained under the trust. The moment I pushed open the front door, it felt like walking into a dream someone else had built. Bridget slipped her hand into mine and whispered, "This place is unreal." I told her Walter built it a year before his wife and kids died in a wreck. He kept it pristine but couldn't bring himself to live here, couldn't face making memories that never got a chance to happen. We explored the main floor, then headed upstairs. The master bedroom was massive, and the 3 other bedrooms were bigger than most city apartments. It needed some modern updates, but the bones were solid. Bridget looked uneasy for a second. "When did you find out about this place?" she asked. I shrugged. "Right after Emily got served. This property's safe from being claimed as marital assets. She'll try, but it won't hold up. This house is mine." She nodded, then grinned. "Want me to start a list of what you'll need to make it livable?" "Go for it," I said. She pulled out her laptop and got to work while I stepped outside to check the outbuilding. At first glance, it looked like a garage, but massive barn-style doors opened out back. Inside was every piece of land equipment you could dream of. Walter clearly had plans to keep this place in shape. I spent the next half hour hooking a tractor to a heavy-duty brush cutter mounted on the side. I took the Jeep down one side of the long driveway, slicing through the overgrown brush with the tractor, then looped back up the other side. The whole time, my mind drifted to my granddad. I spent half my childhood on his ranch outside Lincoln, and those memories flooded back, like my hands knew the work before my brain caught up. When I pulled up to the house, Bridget stepped outside, flagging me down with a wave. "You gotta see this," she shouted. She'd found a hidden safe tucked behind a false panel in the master bedroom's walk-in closet, still locked. I rifled through the ring of old keys from Walter's lawyer and found one that turned. Inside were 3 heavy gold bars, maybe 3 pounds each, and an envelope stuffed with 30 bearer bonds, each valued at $50,000. My gut tightened. I knew what this meant, and so did she. I shot her a grin. "Good thing we've been at this rehab thing together from the start, or I'd be wondering if you were chasing the money." She didn't say a word, just launched into my arms and kissed me like time had stopped. Let's just say we didn't come up for air right away. I kept clearing brush until the sun sank behind the trees, and darkness took over. We packed up, locked the front door, and headed out for dinner. "You've got your work cut out if you're turning that place into a home," Bridget said. "Any idea where you'll start?" I smirked. "First step? We eat." She laughed and said, "Let my folks know we're going out." She added, "If there was a booth at the restaurant, I'd be glued to your side." She called her parents to check if they'd started dinner. When they said no, we invited them to meet us at Golden Dragon, that all-you-can-eat Chinese joint in Omaha's Benson neighborhood. They were already at a table when we arrived. We ordered hot tea and hit the buffet. Bridget's mom, Ellen, eyed us and said, "What's with you two? You're glowing like a couple of teenagers in love." Bridget grinned. "Nothing major. Just talking earlier, and Jacob said it's lucky we got together before he found out about the inheritance." Ellen nodded. "Good things take time." At the buffet, I piled my plate with kung pao shrimp, teriyaki chicken, and some veggie stir-fry. Bridget kept it simple with lo mein and egg rolls. We beat her parents and her younger sister, Lila, back to the table. Lila dropped the bomb. "Wait, you guys aren't splitting up, are you?" I laughed. "Been a thing since rehab started. Just finally said it out loud today." Her smile lit up, proud and wide. "What's that grin for?" Bridget asked, eyebrow raised. Lila shrugged. "Just thinking about a promise you made me a while back. Guess it came true." Frank stayed quiet, just stood, grabbed 4 beers from the bar by the entrance, and passed them out without a word. We talked nonstop after that, sharing plates and catching up until Frank and I went back for seconds. "When will you be cleared to work?" he asked. "Any clue?" I shrugged. "Just finished rehab. Got appointments next week with my doc and a specialist. Can't promise much till then, but I'm grinding through my last year of forensic accounting studies." Ellen jumped in. "When you're ready, come see me. Our firm's always looking for sharp folks with real-world experience. You'd fit right in." I nodded. "Thanks, but I've got some things to square away first. Gotta get the apartment set up. Bridget's helping with that." Lila's eyes went wide. "You were house hunting with my sister today?" Bridget clarified, "Not exactly. Jacob inherited a property. We checked it out. It's stunning." I added, "Took a bunch of pics for reference. When we start furnishing, it's gonna shine." Frank chimed in. "Bridget and I can handle the decorating." I nodded. "I'd rather have a woman's touch. Guys like me just slap a couch and a TV in and call it done." Bridget gave me a look, then leaned over and kissed me, no hesitation, while her family flipped through the photos on her phone. I filled them in. The land came from a neighbor. The house has been empty, so I'm getting it inspected soon. Once that's done, I'll start fixing it up to move in. Ellen asked, "Have your parents seen it?" I shook my head. Today was the first look. Just me and Bridget. Still a lot to do. The area around the house and garage is clear, but the rest is a jungle. Bridget added, "I've got a video of Jacob on the tractor, cutting through the brush. Gives you a sense of the work ahead." After dinner, we hit up appliance stores, scoped out options, and compared prices. In the end, Bridget and I went with a local supplier. Cost a bit more, but the warranty and service made it worth it. By the time I got home, it was pushing 10 p.m. Early Sunday morning, my phone lit up, 2 missed calls and 3 texts from my ex-sister-in-law, Abigail. I called her back. She'd driven Emily and Mason back from Kansas City after their car got impounded. She wanted to talk before heading home. We agreed to meet for breakfast at the diner in Omaha's Dundee neighborhood. She was waiting outside when I pulled up. As I walked over, she greeted me, and we grabbed a booth. "You're looking strong, Jacob," Abigail said. "Thanks for meeting me. I've heard Emily's side. I want yours." I leaned forward. "Look, Emily checked out of our marriage long ago. While I was stuck in bed, Mason was who she turned to. He didn't just slide into my place emotionally, he started dipping into my bank account, too." Abigail blinked. "She said you pushed her away, told her not to bother visiting. Said you abandoned her before she got close to Mason. She was at the nursing home every day for the first month." I nodded. "Yeah, then by month 6, it was once a week. Mason followed the same pattern. By the 9th month, I was lucky to see Emily or Mason once every few weeks." Abigail's face went ashen. "I had no idea," she said. "Last time Emily visited, she couldn't even look me in the eye. Stayed maybe 10 minutes. I nodded. I told her not to bother coming out of guilt. After I started walking again, I found out Mason had moved into our house 6 months after the crash." Abigail's voice dropped. "She told me you were being stubborn about the divorce." I shook my head. "She left out a lot. Hate to say it, but Mason forged my signature to swipe an insurance payout meant for my medical bills. My dad had to drag him to court to stop him from taking out a loan in my name. We proved the signature was fake, dated when I was still stuck in a rehab center, no way I could have signed anything." Abigail's eyes widened. "Does Emily know?" I shrugged. "Probably not. Mason likely got the info from my mail. The cops are on it. If he's convicted, he's looking at 7 years, minimum." She looked rattled. "Now I see why you sued. It wasn't just emotional abandonment, you were flat out betrayed. I've got to tell Mom." "She doesn't know." I leaned back. "Abigail, when was the last time you visited me? I thought you were with Emily in Brazil." Her jaw dropped. "She told me she was going with you. Turns out it was Mason." I sighed. "I don't know what's gotten into her. Honestly, I'm starting to wonder if Mason's slipping or something. He's been known to deal on the side to fund his own habit." We ate breakfast and kept the conversation light, steering clear of heavy stuff. As we parted ways, I covered the bill. Jacob, Abigail said, I'm talking to Mom. She needs to hear your side straight from you. I'll have her call you. I nodded. Sounds good. After we split, I called the detective who'd been handling my case. I told him my car had been impounded and gave him the location in Kansas City. Then I mentioned my suspicion that Mason was still dealing, probably moving products between gigs to keep his habit going. The detective said if they found enough in the car, he'd get a search warrant that day. He also asked me to sign the car over to Emily through my lawyer. I agreed. After that, Bridget and I grabbed a tape measure and drove back to the log house in Sarpy County to measure for appliances, fridge, stove, the works. We checked every space carefully to avoid buying the wrong sizes. I also scoped out the laundry room to ensure there was room for a full washer and dryer, plus a stand-up freezer for the pantry. Then we headed to a home goods store in Omaha's Westroads area, found what we needed, and scheduled delivery before leaving. That Saturday, I called my folks and invited them to meet us at Longhorn Steakhouse for an early dinner. While driving, my phone rang. Bridget answered and put it on speaker. It was the detective. He confirmed my suspicions. They found pills in the car's trunk, plus materials to cook more. I told him I'd call my lawyer Monday to finalize the car transfer. Bridget shook her head. It's my brother. If Dad finds out, he'll lose it. He already lost his younger brother to this stuff years ago. I promised, we're keeping it quiet. The detective didn't elaborate on the pills, their quantity, or whether the equipment was definitely Mason's. That's why I wanted the car legally in Emily's name, to keep things clean if it went to court. He'd sort out the rest later. At Longhorn, my parents were thrilled to see Bridget with me. She pulled out her phone and showed them photos of the house. Is that part of the estate you inherited? Mom asked. Technically, yeah, I said. But it's in a living trust under my name now, structured to keep taxes low. I need a lot of work before I can move in. First up is an inspection. Bridget spoke softly. My brother's in deeper trouble than you know. If today's evidence holds, my parents are done with him for good. I piled on, had breakfast with Emily's sister, Abigail, this morning. Her family had no clue what really went down. She wanted the truth. Mom glanced at us. And you too? What's the deal? Bridget smiled. So far, so good, but we're keeping it steady until Jacob's life settles. Meanwhile, my lawyer saw the car situation as a golden opportunity. She called Emily and offered a deal. I'd give up the car and my half of the house if she waived any claim to the insurance money. Emily thought she'd won the lottery and signed without a second thought. After clearing the car's loan, Mason drove her to work like it was just another day. Later that afternoon, I met the building inspector at the property. When I got home, the detective had left a voicemail. Mason had been arrested. They tailed him to a rundown warehouse in Omaha's Florence neighborhood, suspected of doubling as a brothel. He and 8 others were busted for manufacturing illegal substances. The building was likely getting condemned. A few days later, I saw Dr. Carlton for a follow-up. He cleared me to move forward with life. That night, just before closing, I stopped by Bridget's workplace. She saw me, ran over, and threw herself into my arms, tears streaming. She knew about Mason. Her dad had gotten a call from Emily, and the truth hit hard. It had been a rough night at their house. Tuesday morning, I swung by the Swift courier service in downtown Omaha. Everyone was happy to see me, even offered my old job back, but I passed. I picked up my final paycheck and headed downstairs to say goodbye to the crew I'd worked with. My buddy Carl was loading his van for the afternoon delivery run. We stepped outside to talk. Your brother is still handling dispatch assignments? I asked. Yeah, still is, he said. I handed him an envelope with a bearer bond and a photo inside. There's a guy about to enter the system, I told Carl. His name and photo are in there. While I was laid up, he stole my wife, trashed my life, and started peddling drugs. The cops finally nabbed him cooking product. I'd love to see him limp out of there with busted arms, something to keep him from strumming that guitar or charming another woman. I leaned in. Let's just say he's due for a reality check. Carl peeked inside the envelope, eyed the bearer bond, and flashed a sly grin. My brother knows guys who aren't afraid to get rough. What do you want done? No cash needed, he owes a favor. As for knocking that cocky attitude out of Mason, trust me, he'll be sharing a cell with someone who'll make his life hell. Then he got serious. I'll pass the bond to his wife and kid. They're struggling, and this'll keep them afloat. Plus, it keeps my brother in the clear. Driving back toward Omaha's Dundee neighborhood, I couldn't help but grin. I'd kept my word, Mason wouldn't be playing music or sweet-talking anyone anytime soon. One last loose end, figuring out what to do about Emily. That could wait until the divorce was final. Back at my parents' place, I called an electrician and booked him for Thursday. When Bridget got off work, I was waiting. We spent the evening hitting up stores, picking out light fixtures for every room. The bathrooms and kitchen needed old copper pipes from the original build replaced with modern ones. My specialist appointment went off without a hitch. He wanted one more checkup before clearing me for work, so we scheduled it for next month. Wednesday night, over pizza and blueprints, I told Bridget, the divorce is final. It's done. We'd already been browsing furniture, but this changed the game. She gave me a playful side-eye. You sure your future wife won't want a say in picking stuff out? Maybe stick to basics, bedroom, kitchen, things you'll use. I grinned. Nope, we're doing the whole place, curtains, sofa, dining table, everything. I want it ready for her to move in. She paused, eyes narrowing. Wait, you already know who you're marrying? Does she know? I leaned closer, teasing. Well, Miss knows everything. I can't propose until I'm officially single. But yeah, I know. Her eyes got misty, and we didn't care who noticed. We dove into furniture shopping with fresh energy. She picked things fast, full of hope. We scheduled delivery for Saturday and dropped off the last items just before midnight. Thursday, the electrician showed up at the log house in Sarpy County. I walked him through, pointing out what needed replacing. He worked his tail off, finishing lights, outlets, everything in one long day. Friday, I spent all day clearing more brush around the property. That night, Bridget and I hit another furniture store to snag a few final pieces. Saturday was a whirlwind, but the good kind. I was wiping down surfaces when the delivery trucks rolled in. We ripped through boxes, setting up what we could, with Bridget taking charge of how the place should look. 3 full deliveries left her a bit overwhelmed, but by 6 p.m., the house actually felt like a home. We crashed on the new couch in the half-finished living room, talking about how far we'd come. We ended up passing out there, not waking until 7 a.m. Here's the thing about life, though, it's not always about what's real, it's about what people think is real that stirs up trouble. And trouble, we had. Both our families started giving us grief, quiet at first, then louder. Nobody wanted to talk about the past, just when we'd make things official. Bridget's mom put it bluntly, just don't get pregnant before the wedding. Fair enough. We came from a place where that stuff still carried weight, small-town values, old-school honor, where promises and integrity meant something. Sounds old-fashioned, but it's not. In our world, reputation used to be everything. Now, the media acts like lying, cheating, and trash-talking is just another day. 2 weeks later, the judgment kept coming. One night, I'd had enough. To hell with it, I told Bridget. Let's give him something to talk about. She raised an eyebrow. What's the plan? I grinned. Friday night, we're buying a truck. By the end of the weekend, we'll have towels, sheets, the works. If they're gonna judge us for living in sin, let's at least have fun. Her eyes lit up. You're serious? Dead serious. But first, I'm getting you an engagement ring. Romantic dinner after. And that's what we did. We picked out a ring she loved, slid it on her finger, then bought a pickup with a lockable toolbox in the bed, grabbing it Saturday. We hit Target, filling 2 carts with dishes, glasses, kitchen towels, everything. Paid, loaded it up, then went back for 2 more carts of bathroom and bedroom stuff. I must have checked out 4 times. After Target, we swung by Hy-Vee in Omaha's Exarban Village to grab meat and groceries Target didn't have. Back at the log house, we unloaded everything, and Bridget called her sister, Lila, to check if her parents were home. They weren't, so we each hopped into our vehicles and drove to collect the last of our personal stuff. I got back before she did. The next day over lunch, we cracked up watching the security feed. 2 cars pulled up to the gate. Bridget leaned toward the monitor with a grin. Let's act like we're not here. After how they'd been acting, I nodded. Yeah, let 'em sit out there and squirm. The day both our families saw the house together was something else. 2 things stopped them cold. the sheer scale of the place and how sharp it looked, fully furnished. More than that, they showed up ready to make amends for how they treated us. Later, Bridget said, Lila told me I could move in with you. That's when it felt like we could finally exhale. That evening, I announced I'd be in front of Judge Malcolm Reynolds the following Thursday to finalize the divorce. Bridget's parents looked sheepish, like they'd just realized how wrong they'd been. When she flashed her engagement ring, let's just say they swallowed their pride with a tall glass of humility. In court, Emily looked drained, like the weight of her choices had finally caught up. The judge asked if we both agreed to the terms. We did. It was quick and clean. Outside the courthouse, she jogged up as I reached my truck. Hold up, Jacob, can we talk? She said, out of breath, like she deserved a moment. I turned slowly. Talk? What for, Emily? Run out of excuses? She flinched but kept her composure. Mason's taking a plea, manufacturing, fraud, the pills. 10 years, maybe out in 7. I let out a dry laugh. Great, your boyfriend's got a long-term plan now. That's supposed to make me feel something? Her lips tightened. I didn't know what he was doing. I snapped, bull. You knew enough to jet off to Brazil with him. Knew enough to let him sleep in my bed, in my house, while I was stuck in a nursing home. Her eyes darted away, voice soft like it mattered. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. Visiting felt like watching someone slip away, and I didn't know how to help. I stepped closer. You weren't watching, you were busy building your new life while I fought to survive. Don't play the sympathy card now. She swallowed hard. I'm selling the house, leaving the state. If you want anything from it, let me know. I stared, then smirked. You think I care about the house? Keep it, torch it, whatever. I've got bigger things ahead. Her face soured. I didn't come to argue. I shot back, cold, no, you came to ease your guilt and skip town like you didn't help ruin me. Your apology's too damn late. I don't want your pity, your closure, or your forgiveness. I climbed into the truck, not giving her another glance. Before slamming the door, I added, tell Mason congrats, he's finally getting the attention he craved. Just not the kind he hoped for. I fired up the engine. Through the window, I saw her standing there, mouth agape, finally getting it. What she didn't know was her debt was already settled, not by me, but by Mason's own crew. Saturday morning, the cops rolled up to the gate. Bridget buzzed them in. It was the detective who'd worked with me and Dad. He brought news, Emily was dead. They'd learned Mason had snitched on a cartel spanning 3 states. Emily was taken out as payback, executed clean and cold. Mason had been dealing with a Colombian syndicate and tried playing both sides. He ratted, and they settled it their way. It's been 5 years since my accident, 3 since Bridget and I tied the knot. Frank, Bridget's dad, visited Mason in prison once. Said Mason's right arm got shattered after clashing with his cellmate's rules. Eventually, he stopped resisting and just gave in. Every Christmas, I get a card from my brother, Carl. Just a short note, wishing you and yours a good year. That's enough. Bridget and I have a daughter now, Marissa. She's just starting to crawl and has completely won over her grandparents. A fiery redhead, just like her mom and grandma. After a specialist deemed me 20% disabled, I was granted a lifetime annuity. Only Bridget and Mom know the real extent of my condition, everyone else just sees the grin and steady stride. For our last anniversary, Bridget and I handed my parents an envelope. Inside was proof their house and store were paid off in full. And here's something nobody else knew, we bought the lot where that pill warehouse once stood in Omaha's Florence neighborhood. Got it dirt cheap. Now, a modern apartment complex sits there, run by a firm I hired to manage it. This past Sunday, we hosted both families for dinner and dropped some news. Marissa's getting a sibling. Yeah, Bridget and I are in it for the long haul, no question.